Now before we go in and actually do some retouching, we're going to just sort of assess the image zoomed in. We're going to see where are our problem areas, what's standing out. We can always jump back and forth. It's really important actually to keep your options open for the whole image. That's when you see things the most, is when you're looking at it close up and then from far again. So I'm going to just start at the neck here. The main tool that I always use is the burn and dodge tool. I'm going to be using it throughout this whole DVD. It's really one of your best friends when you're doing retouching. And the reason I say that is because when you use the burn and dodge tool, you're not actually changing the pixel dimension like you would be when you use the clone stamp or the healing brush, which are other major tools that we'll be using. So when you burn and dodge, you are lightening certain parts and you're darkening others. The way you can toggle between either burning or dodging instead of having to go and change it in the tool palette is you can either press Option to switch back and forth. I like to set my pen tablet so that the button is Option. That way I don't even have to hold down the key, I just push the button. It really speeds things up for me. And I'm just going through and I'm looking at some of these areas, and this model is wearing a lot of makeup. It was really pushed into her skin, so she's got sort of a rough texture going on. We're going to need to smooth that out. I'm taking the healing brush and I'm just going over some of these larger areas to get rid of the huge blemishes and the major color shifts. I can smooth it out a little. And then I'm going to burn and dodge. You really want to balance it out so that you've got a nice soft, even skin tone, and there's not huge areas of dark mixed with huge areas of light. That's essentially what the burn and dodge tool is doing, is balancing it out. I'm going to be switching back and forth between the burn and dodge and the healing brush for some of this beginning skin cleanup. As I go over it, you want to keep in mind what you're looking at is skin, so you want it to hold on to skin texture. One of the things that really irks me is when I look at a magazine and it is just so glaringly obvious that this has been badly retouched. What we want to achieve is a really natural look where the skin texture is still intact and it just looks flawless. The best way to achieve that style, that look, is with the burn and dodge. So we're going to be doing a lot of burning and dodging. The clone stamp is another tool that's got multiple settings. As you can see, I just set mine to lighten. I usually keep it around 30% opacity. That way I'm not really changing anything too drastically. What I'm doing is I'm sampling close by and I'm going over it and lightening it just a little bit to match. So here's so far you can see what we've done. Now I'm going to go in this, I've still got it set to 30% lighten. And we're going to zoom around these lips here and just clean up this lipstick. It's starting to bleed out a little bit into the skin. We want to have a really nice fine line, a real distinction between where the lipstick starts and stops. I'm going to just change the opacity a little bit so that it's a little bit more drastic. When I put it to normal, it's not only cloning light or dark, it's also cloning color. So this one here, we're actually cloning the lipstick and pushing it down. In the brush palette, we can change the size and the hardness of our brush. For doing dark lipstick like this, you want to have some hardness. That way you can really see the edging between where the lipstick starts and stops onto the skin. So we're just going to smooth this out and create a nice lip edge. You don't want it to be completely hard because then it will look too separate. You want to have it so it is just the right hardness where you can see the edge of the lip meets the skin. We'll just go around it and make sure that it's all nice and smooth, and then we're going to reshape these lips just a little bit. So get these edges cleaned up, get the skin cleaned up. When you're doing skin retouching, it's important to kind of work in small movements. You don't want to do something at 100% and then have it be really hard-edged and look fake. So start off small, low opacities. You're going to have to go over the same area a few times before it's going to look just right. But it's better to do it right than to have it be really obvious. Something to watch out for, what's happening over here to the right of the lips, is it's called artifacting, where you start to get the same image duplicated. So we're going to fix that in just a second, but first we're going to reshape these lips so that they look really nice. Instead of, she's turning her mouth down a little bit in a frown, so we're just going to reshape these a little bit so that they look real nice. In Liquify, you go in with the, right now it's set to the pointer. You can see in the top left, it's got the finger pointing down. And I have it set so that the brush pressure, how hard I'm pushing on my pen, indicates how much movement I'm going to have. I like to keep it really slow movement so that's not too crazy and I have more control over what's going to happen. And I'm just very lightly pushing the lips in to reshape them so that they are nice and round and smooth. You can go over it a few times, just kind of gently push. If you have these settings on the right hand side here, the brush rate and the brush density, you can also change the brush size, but those brush density settings and the brush pressure, that's going to affect how quickly something is moved. So here you can see the before and after of just doing that small shape change. Okay, now I'm going to fix that little artifacting area there so that we don't have that doubling. And as you can see, let's just get rid of that a little bit. Burn and dodge that out. Something to keep your eyes open for all times is to make sure that if you have to clone an area, that you can't tell that it's been cloned. You need it to look different. So go ahead and take the burn and dodge tool or the healing brush and go over that area again, just so that you don't get a doubling of pixels. Okay, now zoom out a little bit and we're going to have to fix that frown. Let's look at it from a distance before and after. So you can see our lip cleanup. We've just made it a little bit tighter. So it looks like her lips really have that lipstick on them instead of kind of all over her face. Now I'm just going to push this up a little bit. Not much. I don't want to give her a McDonald's smile or anything, but we just want to have it be a little bit softer, more gentle, so she looks a little bit more inviting. Just clean up that edge a little. Sometimes when you liquefy something, it can make it softer, so we're going to go in and redefine the mouth area so that it doesn't look soft. Teeth whitening, that's an area where a lot of art directors are going to ask you to really whiten those teeth. If you go in and you make something really white, it's going to look fake. So basically what you want to do is just neutralize any shadow areas, which is what I'm doing here with the burn and dodge. Lightening the shadows. And her teeth look pretty gray, which is kind of what you want. You don't want them to look yellow. You want them to look a neutral color. From afar, you want them to have a highlight and a shadow to them. So we're going to just open them up a little bit. Switch my opacity. And I'm just going to clone that area down so that we don't have any really dark spots there. And now they're starting to look good. Like I said, you don't want to have it look like she just got out of the dentist with teeth whitener, because that essentially is not going to look real. Our goal here is to make her look as beautiful as she really is without having it look fake. Just going to lighten some of these dark areas until it looks neutral and balanced from afar. It's important to zoom out every now and then and look at what you're doing. Sometimes when you're zoomed in this close, you can kind of get carried away. So remember to zoom out, reassess the image, see what stands out, let yourself evaluate it, and then go back in and do the work. Look at your before and after frequently. That'll show you if you've taken it too far, because sometimes you might think, oh, it looks great, and then you zoom out and look at the before and after and you think, oh no, this is way too far. So another thing you're always going to have to remember to do is take out those nose hairs. Just clean them up a little bit. Clone stamp's the easiest way to do that. You can set it to darken, and then you can set it to lighten, or you can just keep it at neutral if you feel confident doing that. The secret with using the clone stamp and the healing brush effectively is to visually see the center of your brush and line it up. You want to make sure that what you're working on you have lined up properly with where you're taking the sample and where you're like pasting the sample essentially is what you're doing. When you press option and you take a sample, that is going to be your source. And where you paste it in, you need to have it lined up so that it reads properly. We'll go over that a little bit more later on, but that's what you're doing when you clone something. So make sure you have it lined up, make sure you're aware of where you've sampled and that it's reading properly and it's pasting in properly, and then you'll really start to get control over that brush. And after a while it'll become second nature.